Hey YouTubians, it's Tony here from We Try Anything. The channel likes to try anything so you don't have to. In today's video we're going to take a look at another watch from the Casio range, with this being the Casio AE-1100W, which has a module number of 3264. So as usual with the watches that we review on the We Try Anything channel, we'll be looking around the Casio AE-1100W, highlighting some of the materials used, the design of the watch, and mentioning some of the sizes along the way. We will then go through some of the functions that this watch has to offer, pop it on our wrist and say what it's like to wear. There are instructions to this watch linked to in the description box below, as well as an Amazon affiliate link if you are interested in buying this watch, or even maybe just want to find out a little bit more about it and some of the reviews of this watch via Amazon. There will be a tutorial video of this watch coming very soon, which will help you understand how to operate this watch a bit more better. So if you want to find out more, then subscribe to the channel via the button below. Now, as you may have guessed, this is, if you have watched a few of the other watch videos that I do have the channel, this is an eBay purchase. Now, as it's been an eBay purchase, I did get it a little bit cheaper, I'll be honest with you, but the main reason I do like to buy watches from eBay is it just shows how these watches wear over time, because obviously it's a pre-loved example, and if it was me buying it from brand new, I do tend to take a lot of care of the watches I have. But if I do buy a watch from someone else, you do get to see how these watches wear. Now in this instance, this watch has worn very well, but one of the many perils of buying off eBay and buying something that has been pre-loved or pre-used, this one does come with some like a perfume, very strong perfume smell, and I just can't. I mean, you will see that these little bits might be the actual residue from the or the aftershave that this person has used before me. And as I say, you do tend to get that from time to time, depending on, like for example, cigarette smells and stuff like that. So bear that in mind when you are buying a watch off eBay. You will get some of the smells from the previous user. Hopefully good, but sometimes a little bit more than what you bargain for. But again, I do like to show up these watches, warts and all. Now the other thing to mention is that this watch does come in a few other colors. You'll find that I believe it's got some of them. In this case, this one's got a what would be a metal, like a dark grey metal satin effect with a black bezel, but some of them do come in like you've got a gold outer casing. Some of them you got them in black, which is like an all black with the actual decals on there, and also you can get them, I believe, in a metal, not so much a metal case, but it does have a like a what would be a silver outer, but you do have a metal bracelet, like a strap. So there is a lot of, you know, there is a fair few watches that you can buy, and hopefully you will find one that suits your taste. So with that all out the way, let's take a little closer look at the Casio AE-1100W. Now this watch does have a plastic resin case which measures 44mm in diameter, which in this instance, as I've mentioned, has a painted matte grey metal effect going on here to the outer case, or what would be the top part of the outer case. It does contrast well with the black bezel, and it is a nice colour combination going on here. It does give it that bit more I wouldn't say upmarket look, but a bit more sophistication going on here. It does also have 4 plastic pushes going on here which slightly protrude out of the actual outer case, and as you can see there, they do have certain markings on the pushes which allow for better grip, so when you put your finger on it you can feel the friction going on here. And also mentioning some of the detail on the bezel as well, it's very nice, kind of like a diamond effect happening on here, and you do have the usual Casio decals which obviously go around the actual perimeter of the watch, and obviously on the inner part of the dial as well. And it's not too intrusive because some of them are really quite decal heavy, but in this instance very nice really. Case thickness, you are looking at 14mm from the back of the, or what is known as the case back, to the actual dial window on the watch. Inner lug width, you are looking at 18mm, so that's from there to there. If I haven't already mentioned it, this watch on the case, it does have a lug to lug, or from top to bottom, of 48mm. Now the strap, it is a resin, black resin strap going on here. You are looking at 24mm from that top there, going to around 18-19mm approximately, tapers down to that size there, just before the actual plastic pin and buckle. And mentioning the strap, as I say, it is a nice resin strap. It does have some very nice detailing, and the ribbon it's a little bit deep for me. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I do wear this watch from time to time, and you do slightly know you're wearing it because it's not as flexible. Now that is only, I would imagine, because it's probably not worn as much as some of the other watches I have featured on the channel, or the actual strap isn't as worn. I will say it's not that it's uncomfortable or anything, but you do notice a little more on your wrist. But I will talk about that a little more later on. Weight wise, you are looking at about 40 millimeters, so it's not a heavy watch by any stretch of the imagination. And what you do have, obviously, you have that covering the, or what goes over the actual main dial or the main module of this watch, you have a spherical acrylic resin glass. Now just bear in mind that that is prone to scratches going on here, which you can see just in the light of the actual studio lights going on here. So it will scratch. So I will mention that if that puts you off, then you might need to spend a little bit more money on a Casio that has mineral glass, which is a little more less prone to scratching. But with it being like a plastic resin glass, it will scratch. But if that bothers you and you are looking at a watch like this, then get what would be known as a tube or poly watch, which I have done a video about and is available via Amazon, and that will help you get rid of quite a lot of small scratches or micro abrasions on the dial of this watch, and it is fantastic. I've used it quite a few times on the watches I have featured on this channel. Now on the case back, you do have what is a stainless steel back, which has the 4 screws which allow you access to the battery and the module and stuff like that. And also, as mentioned, it does have a water resistance of 10 bar or 100 meters. So with it being 100 meters, it's considered more safe to use while swimming and showering, but not recommended for scuba diving. So you know, there is watches out there that are more suitable to that activity, but for jumping in the shower, in a bath or anything like that, or running under a tap, which I have done with this watch to try and clean it up a bit more, it does cope with that no problem. Now powering this watch, you have a 10-year battery from brand new, and also that powers what would be the quartz movement that is built into the module, which has an accuracy of plus and minus 30 seconds per month. And let's talk about the actual display of the dial, as it were, or what's featured on the dial. To me, I do like the look of this watch. I mean, with this watch being predominantly being able to quickly flick through what would be the world time, or what I think it goes up to 41 cities within the world in which you can look at the time of. So for example, if you do fly to like other cities within the world, then this watch is a very good option for you to consider, because you can look at other cities throughout the world and the times that they are currently at. Now I can show you from the actual main timekeeping mode 4 of them. So for example, if I just click on the search button, or press on the search button going on here, if you fly to, or you communicate with people in New York a lot, then you can set it up to have one of the actual main main times that you can switch between in timekeeping mode as New York. You can see that at the minute it is 5:58 in the morning. Again, you got London going on here, and as you can see, there's a little part of the graphic display going on here which has the world map, which indicates which part of the world you are looking at. So it is a nice feature to have on this watch, and I really don't mind the look of it. I like the way that, you know, you got the time fairly big. It doesn't dominate. I mean, if it was a little bit more thicker, a little bit more bigger, then I'd say it's probably more ideal. But in terms of the actual aesthetic of the time zones going on here, and then the actual main business end of the watch going on here with the date, you know, it does have daylight saving time. This watch will feature that. It does have the month and obviously the date within the month and the time going on here, and it is a very nice display. You do also have what will be an analog representation but in digital form, and that will always show you the local time. So it's a nice little feature that you got going on here. If you wasn't, you know, say for example you're in the alarm or the stopwatch, you can always quickly glean the time from that. So as I say, from afar you can quickly see the time and anything like that, and it's a very easy watch to understand. The only thing I do find is that I do tend to look at the map a little bit more of the time. You know, I look at the map first, then the time, but that is just the way I read this watch, but it doesn't detract from the overall usability of this watch. Now this watch also features what would be a backlight, and that is via the one amber LED going on here. Now I am showing you just a little clip of it within darkness. Now I have set this up for a 3-second delay, but you can also set it up for 1.5 seconds, and as I've mentioned, the 3-second delay. So as I press it, you do count 3 seconds, and then obviously the time will go off. So it is great in darkness. If you want to read the time, this watch does illuminate, I would say, very well really. This watch will feature 12 and 24-hour formats. I have mentioned it does take into consideration, or you can turn on and off, the daylight saving time, and also this watch will have built into it a full auto calendar. So once you set the calendar, you can kind of forget it for years to come. It will take into account leap years, and obviously February with the 28 days or 29 days depending on the leap year, and that will allow that function to operate automatically up to 2099. So just bear that in mind. Now, as I've mentioned some of the functions, it is a world time watch. Now just press the actual mode button here, and as you can see, as I cycle through the what would be the 31 time zones or 48 cities, sorry, I think I said 41 previously, but it does have 48 cities where it is the times are coordinated with whatever what's known as universal time is set up as. And as you can see, there is so many, like Adelaide and Sydney. But as you can see, as I'm cycling through the actual many cities that this watch does offer, you can see the time zones that it is going through on the actual graphic display here, which is very handy if you're just getting a rough, obviously it doesn't have the city that is the city that you are visiting isn't listed, but you've got the rough area of the world that you are visiting, so it'll give you an idea that you can set it up for. Really, there is 5 independent alarms on this watch, which has a one-time or daily alarm that you can set it for, and it also has an hourly signal, and it is easy to operate, and I will show you in my tutorial video coming soon how to operate the alarm, so it is very handy to have. The next thing it also has is a countdown timer. Now the measuring unit, I believe the input range is from 1 second to 24 hour, but if you do have it on zeros, you can just it will count down from 24 hour, and then once the 24 hours has elapsed, it will beep. But you can easily turn that off and set it. But also, if you press the adjust button like you would do with the timekeeping mode, you can set your own timer going on there. It also has a stopwatch built into it, which measures what would be 100th of a second. It does have a measuring capacity that goes up to 24 hours, and the modes that it measures in, so I'll just kick it off, it will do an elapsed time, and if I press that button, it will do a split time as well. And also it allows you to do what is known as first and second place times. Now if you want to know a little bit more about first and second place times, I will mention it in the tutorial video coming very soon. And then finally, what I'm going to do, now I've talked about the actual modes because it just quickly glossed over the functions of this watch, I'm going to pop it on my wrist and say what this watch is like to wear. Now on the wrist, I've got to say this watch does look very good, and I'm sorry if my studio lighting, or the ring light that I'm currently using here is just kind of obscuring the display a little here, so I'll try and move it so you can look at it properly. And as I'm going to say, it is very nice indeed. It just looks, I've got to say, it just looks quite rugged and quite easy to read. I mean, I do like the way the world map is going on here, and it is an interesting watch to wear. And I do love the way that the actual metal, or what would be the dark grey metal effect, does contrast with what would be the black resin bezel going on there. Now, as I've mentioned with the strap, I'm sure I've mentioned with the strap, it does just pinch in a little bit here. But as I say, I do think that this strap is, it's not as supple as it should be. Now if you compare it, say something like the strap on this AE-1000 going on here, the 1000, this one's a little bit more worn, and I have worn this watch a fair few times, and it is a little bit more comfortable. So my theory is that this watch needs to be worn a lot more just to get that strap in a more sort of subtle, as it were, more sort of flexible feeling to it, so it doesn't dig in as much. But as I say, it doesn't feel uncomfortable on the wrist, but you will notice it when you are wearing it. Now just to mention, I have got a 6.5 inch wrist, just because I do get some people who do asking me about the wrist, and it does wear very well on there. It doesn't inhibit hand movement, but it does a little bit, you do feel just a little push is going on here. But again, you can move you watch up the actual wrist, and there again you're all right really. So it just depends on how you wear these watches, and I've got to say, it is a nice watch to look at on a daily basis. And as a beta watch, or what is called as a beta watch, these watches do wear very well. Now my only gripe, and this is just more personal, I do feel that the actual end of the strap just does stick out just a touch really, and again that is just based on the size of my wrist and how I do wear these watches. And ideally, if I could just get that strap retainer just to stop it poking out a little, then this watch would be perfect. But other than that, I do think it's a really nice watch to wear, and I'm sorry if I'm moving it around a little bit. I'll just kind of pause it there just for you to take a look at on the wrist, and I've got to say it looks really good. Now if you are interested in a world timer, you do have this as one option. You do have this layout as another, which is the AE-1100W, which has a slightly thicker font going on here. You know, you've got the date. Obviously, you've got the date kind of listed below. You've got the world timer, not as big. So you might find that watch a little bit more easier to read. And you obviously got the what would be the digital representation of what would be an analog time going on here. But in terms of looks, I do like that watch over that watch. But some people might find, I don't know, they're a little bit, you know, it just depends on your personal preference. But as this review is more about this watch than the other, it is a really nice watch to look at, and it's a nice watch to wear, and it is feature packed. And if you are looking to travel the world or go around the world, then I would say this watch is a great watch to consider as your traveling companion. So I hope you like the review of this watch. You know, it is, as I say, a great watch, and it is a very affordable watch. If you did like the review, then click on the like button, always helps the channel. If you want to see more videos coming from the Try Anything channel, including the tutorial of the Casio AE-1100, then click on the subscription button below. And thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.